and 13 others. 1. David Koresh, /K. R. Born Vernon Wayne Howell, August 17, 1959, April 19, 1993, was an American religious leader 345, who played a central role in the Waco siege of 1993. As the head of the Branch Davidian sect, 6, Koresh claimed to be its final prophet. Coming from a dysfunctional background, Koresh was a member and later a leader of the Branch Davidians, a movement led by Benjamin Roden that splintered off from the Davidian Seventh-day Adventist Church, also known as the Shepherd's Rods, based at the Mount Carmel Center outside Waco, Texas. Here Koresh competed for dominance with another leader named George Roden, until Roden was jailed for murdering another rival. 7. David Koresh was born Vernon Wayne Howell on August 17, 1959 in Houston, Texas, to a 14-year-old single mother, Bonnie Sue Clark, 1944 to 2009, 8, and father Bobby Wayne Howell, 1939 to 2008. Before Koresh was born, his father met another teenage girl and abandoned Bonnie Sue. Koresh never met his father, and his mother began cohabitating with a violent alcoholic. 8. In 1963, Koresh's mother left with her boyfriend and placed her 4-year-old son in the care of his maternal grandmother, Earline Clark. His mother returned when he was 7, after her marriage to a carpenter named Roy Haldeman. Bonnie Sue and Haldeman had a son together named Roger, who was born in 1966. Koresh described his early childhood as lonely. 8. Due to his poor study skills and dyslexia, he was put in special education classes and nicknamed Vernie by his fellow students. 9. Koresh dropped out of Garland High School in his junior year. When he was 19 years old, Koresh had an illegal sexual relationship with a 15-year-old girl who became pregnant. 8. He claimed to have become a born-again Christian in the Southern Baptist Church and soon joined his mother's church, the Seventh-day Adventist Church. There he became infatuated with the pastor's daughter and, while praying for guidance, he opened his eyes and allegedly found the Bible open at Isaiah 34:16, stating that none should want for her mate. Convinced this was a sign from God, he approached the pastor and told him that God wanted him to have his daughter for a wife. The pastor threw him out, and when he continued to persist with his pursuit of the daughter, he was expelled from the congregation. 8. In 1981, Koresh moved to Waco, Texas, where he joined the Branch Davidians, not to be confused with the original Davidian Seventh-day Adventist group. Benjamin Roden, who died in 1978, originated the branch group in 1955 with new teachings that were not connected with the original Davidians. Koresh played guitar and sang in church services at the Mount Carmel Center, the sect's headquarters outside Waco. In 1983, Koresh began claiming the gift of prophecy. It is speculated by David Thibodeau in his 1999 book, A Place Called Waco, that he had a sexual relationship with Lois Roden, the widow of Benjamin Roden and leader of the cult, who was then in her late 60s, with Koresh eventually claiming that God had chosen him to father a child with her, who would be the chosen one. 8. In 1983, Lois allowed Koresh to begin teaching his own message, called the Serpent's Root, which caused controversy in the group. Lois's son George Roden intended to be the cult's next leader and considered Koresh an interloper. When Koresh announced that God had instructed him to marry Rachel Jones, who then added Koresh to her name, there was a short period of calm at the Mount Carmel Center, but it proved only temporary. In the ensuing power struggle, George Roden claimed to have the support of the majority of the cult, forcing Koresh and his group off the property at gunpoint. Koresh and around 25 followers set up camp at Palestine, Texas, 90 miles, 140 kilometers, from Waco, where they lived under rough conditions in buses and tents for the next 2 years. During this time, Koresh undertook recruitment of new followers in California, the United Kingdom, Israel, and Australia. That same year he traveled to Israel, where he claimed he had a vision that he was the modern-day Cyrus. The founder of the Davidian movement, Victor Houteff, wanted to be God's implement and establish the Davidic kingdom in Palestine. Koresh also wanted to be God's tool and set up the Davidic kingdom in Jerusalem. At least until 1990, he believed the place of his martyrdom might be in Israel, but by 1991 he was convinced that his martyrdom would be in the U.S. instead of Israel. He said the prophecies of Daniel would be fulfilled in Waco and that the Mount Carmel Center was the Davidic kingdom. 10. After being exiled to the Palestine camp, Koresh and his followers eked out a primitive existence. When Lois died in 1986, The exiled Branch Davidians wondered if they would ever be able to return to the Mount Carmel Center. But despite the displacement, Koresh now enjoyed the loyalty of the majority of the Branch Davidian community. 11. By late 1987, Rodin's support was in steep decline. To regain it, he challenged Koresh to a contest to raise the dead, going so far as to exhume a corpse to demonstrate his spiritual supremacy. Koresh went to authorities to file charges against Rodin for illegally exhuming a corpse, but was told he would have to show proof, such as a photograph of the corpse. Koresh seized the opportunity to seek criminal prosecution of Rodin by returning to the Mount Carmel Center with 7 armed followers, allegedly attempting to get photographic proof of the crime. Koresh's group was discovered by Rodin and a gunfight broke out. When the sheriff arrived, Rodin had already suffered a minor gunshot wound and was pinned down behind a tree. As a result of the incident, Koresh and his followers were charged with attempted murder. At the trial, Koresh explained that he went to the Mount Carmel Center to uncover evidence of criminal disturbance of a corpse by Rodin. Koresh's followers were acquitted, and in Koresh's case a mistrial was declared.